So in this one, we're going to take a look at the P1S AMS combo and do an initial setup. I've taken it out of the box. It's still in the plastic bag, so we'll take everything apart. We'll release the screws, make sure everything looks all right, and kind of go through that initial setup. This is going to be very similar to the X1 or the X1 Carbon if you have one of those, but this video is mainly for anyone that's curious about the P1S, what's different about it, and what comes with the printer. So let's get into it. So this is the P1S with the AMS, which is located inside of the printer. It comes with a nice piece of tape on top so you can grab these handles and pull it out of the box safely. Once you do that, you'll find some filament. If you bought the combo, mine came with 3 filament, and if you're curious for comparison's sake or historical reasons, it came with support W, and then green and orange basic PLA, and it looks like 250 grams. All 3 of those on a bamboo spool. So those spools are reusable, they detach by just a quick little twist. And it's handy to have these so you can re-spool filaments to use with the AMS. Now when you start opening up the printer, there is a guide here. You should definitely take off this guide and take a look through it. It's going to tell you where the screws are. I've already set up the X1 Carbon previously, so I'm familiar with how this works, but effectively you want to open it up, unbag the glass, pull the AMS out, and then there's some screws holding the bed in place inside. And that's generally the setup process. We'll attach the screen and then you're almost ready to go. The spool holder will go in the back and then set up the AMS. So we'll go through that in the rest of this video and just kind of overview the process of opening up the new printer. I do think it's worth keeping some of this, so I'm going to keep this bag, put it back in the box in case there is an issue during the warranty period, or if I have to move, I'll be able to put it back in the box and keep it safe in shipping. Now, one thing to note is that the sides of the P1S are plastic. I thought there was a chance that they could have used aluminum like in the X1 Carbon, but it seems that they were able to go with the plastic sides. You know, that actually might be a little bit better for thermal insulation. It doesn't really make a difference. The aluminum in the X1 Carbon is purely aesthetic and it gives it a more premium feel. I think this will be just fine and it's worth the price savings. And I also think that there's a good chance that the original X1 molds were still around, and that's why they were able to just swap these out. So what this is effectively is a downgraded X1 instead of an upgraded P1P. You could think about it that way, but it's filling the same kind of mid of the stack as the X1 originally did. So once you get the foam removed, the first thing you do need to do is remove these 2 screws. This bracket is actually connected down here, and that is what you'll need to do to remove the AMS. Inside of the box is the Allen key that's used for that. Once that's unscrewed, now the AMS is free, and you should be able to just lift it right up out. And this is the AMS unit. This is how they all come, with this plastic on it and this desiccant bag. We'll just set this to the side for now, but you can see that it has extra PTFE tubing inside. Now once you've got the AMS dislodged, we'll come in here and you can see there are a couple extra screws where those red arrows are, and those screw holes are the other locations that hold the bed down. And you can see this plate is stuck in place until you remove them. Once you have these extra 4 screws loosened, this plate will come right out. Don't worry about that foam that's holding in the side there. And I left the screws down in there, but I'm going to again pull those out so that I can put them in a bag and then keep them. Or you can put a little piece of tape over top of these so you know where they go for later. There's a couple more screws. You can see now that that reveals another screw hole here. What that does is holds this Z carriage down to the bottom so it doesn't move around, as well as there's one in the back here. We can pull this off to get it out of the way. This is just the magnetic bed, and this is actually the new gold magnetic bed. It looks very similar to the one that was very popular on AliExpress. I haven't tried this yet. This is the first time with this, but I'm surprised that they included it with the P1S. That makes me think that maybe they're discontinuing the other manufacturer that they're using for the other texture bed that they use, and they just switched to another manufacturer. Either that, or they saw that everybody was buying the gold ones and they went with the gold one instead, and it's the same thing. There's really no telling, but I'll give this a test in the future. The screw in the back's a little bit of a pain, so what I'm actually using is the iFixit bit that fits in there with this flexible extension, and that will let me turn the screw a little easier, much better. Okay, once that's loose, we should be able to move the bed once the printer's plugged in, and all we have to do now is remove some of the foam and the cardboard that's left in the printer. Once you've got it set up like this, you're pretty set. The last few things to do is get the screen plugged in. Sorry, this is one of the carbon filters. This one doesn't come in plastic. They're user replaceable. So that's a nice upgrade that the P1S has. At this point, it's probably time to install the screen. So we'll go ahead and do that. This is the screen for the P1P. It's the same exact screen that's on the P1P. Nothing special about it. It's actually very, very basic. It's just a screen with a couple arrows and a pause and a back button. Your SD card reader is here actually on the printer, and I actually like that a little bit more. And it appears it does come with one. So the P1S comes with a small SD card, and it looks like this one is unmarked. It has some Taiwan markings, but no capacity. So we'll take a look at that. That's interesting because the X1 does not come with any form of SD card. I guess they assume that you will be purchasing it separately on your own. Now for the screen, the angle that the cable comes through is a little bit hard to actually plug in without taking this off. So what I actually recommend is taking the correct Allen key, taking off this backing, and then plugging in the screen directly and feeding it through this little backing piece. So the trick is to feed it through here, have that out of your way, and now you can access this without an issue. And then it's as simple as plugging it in the correct orientation. And it looks like I was able to get a good connection. And you can see here that there's these slots that match up with these little arms. So tuck your excess back into the hole and then slide it into place. So that gets your screen. It's actually a better fit than the X1 Carbon. One thing I like to do with these printers, whenever I set it up, I want to make sure that everything is in a good neutral position. The way I do this is first go to the back of the printer and I loosen these, not all the way out, but just loosen them. And the way this works, it sets the automatic tension. So I like to loosen them to make sure that the tension is neutralized. I'll move the hot end to the center. Give it a couple little moves each direction, and that'll kind of loosen everything up, get the tension back set appropriately. It's not a bad idea to just do that at the beginning when you first set up the printer. So here's a problem that I noticed with mine. My aux vent fan is just kind of hanging off the side. So that's definitely an issue. I'm pretty sure it's just double-sided tape on there. Not a big deal, I'll have to stick it back on there, but it is something that I would like to mention to Bambu. Once you've got it on the Wi-Fi, there's one last confirmation to verify that you removed these 3 screws, which I did. And then once it's successfully loaded, we should be able to select the printer, and we should be able to jog the platform up. So I'll select the one that doesn't have the AMS connected to it right now. And let's raise the build plate. Just enough so I could pull this foam out of the way. And then reinstall the plate. Now I could already tell a couple things. The fit and the finish is just not as tight as what it is on the X1. Even this build plate doesn't quite fit into these brackets as well, and I think that's just because of how they've manufactured the parts that they put in the P1 series versus the X1. It just doesn't fit quite as good as in the X1. I'm not sure if that's something that's intentional or just a change in manufacturing quality as things have gone along, but it's something that I think is worth considering. It looks like the P1S now is done with its initial setup. The next thing you would do is set up the AMS, which is very straightforward. I won't cover that in this video because we're already getting close to 10 minutes. And that's it for this one. Let me know down in the comments if you like this kind of content, if you want to see more about the Bambu printers, and I'll see you next time.